Hi, all chess goodies, and welcome to day 23 of my journey to top 100 in the world. Yesterday I played just one game and I lost it, but I was quite expecting it because I felt really tired. And I was also saying that today it should be better, so let's find out. I feel better, I definitely do. So let's find out if I can gain rating this time. I'm already close to 2200 only, which I definitely don't want to drop below that. But you know, I would think can happen, but I'll do my best to avoid it and to climb back up eventually and to that 2440, which is there, I think, needed to the top 100. I'm not sure how is it now. It's obviously changing a bit every single day, but it's gonna be somewhere around that. But okay, we get a Budapest Gambit here. That's quite interesting. I think I'll just take, basically. I'll just accept the Gambit, and then I might just defend with Knight f3. I think, why not? Knight c6 will be played. And then I don't think that I'll hang on to that pawn as much. I will just give it up potentially, but I should get a nice position like Knight c3, pawn to e4 should be pretty possible to play. Okay, there is this attack against the f2 pawn, which I should deal with definitely. And the most obvious way is just to play e3. So let's do that. Okay, now knight to c6. Understand, so this actually slows down the e4 thing that I want to play. And there's even no bishop f4. So as I was saying, I'm not going to be up a pawn. But I mean, still, I would say that I have a slight advantage here. Yeah, I feel to be pretty fine. Okay. And now go back. Okay, I can just castle now as I was... Okay, I got a bit interrupted here, but that's fine. That's why I was silent for a while. Okay, so castle, castle. And now... I'm not so sure, knight e4 to harass the bishop, but I think I'll just go for a3, b4 first. Could be nice. Or, yeah, let's go for that. a3, b4. I'm slightly concerned about a5. Yeah, exactly, here it comes. But I think that rook b1 and pawn to b4 should be just fine, even though that opens up the a file. Okay, there comes the bishop. But I can just play pawn to e4 and attack it. So okay, bishop retreats, attacks the c4 pawn. That is true that the pawn is now hanging. But if I play pawn to b4, it will attack the bishop. Bishop would have to go back. I have some nice ideas here. Yeah, I'll go for it. I'll go for pawn to b4. It attacks the bishop. As I was saying, it opens up the a-file for black's rook, which is nice for my opponent, but it is as it is. So right now I have to do something about the c4 pawn actually. I can push it. That could be an interesting option because there is this b7 pawn, but then there is bishop b6 as well. After bishop takes somehow. Bishop back to b6, trapping my rook eventually. So maybe that's not the way to go. Other move I was thinking about was knight d5, but then pawn to c6. If I drop back, there's this trade. Might be able to defend with the queen, but maybe not in the best way possible. So maybe just pawn to c5 is the only way, and the only way to gain activity. But I don't think that I will take on b7 actually, because it would not be that hard to trap the rook. So I'm actually down a pawn here, but I'll just get active. Right? I mean, there are a lot of attacking possibilities, even though the queens can get traded off. It's possible that they will. I'll just play bishop f4. It attacks the knight directly. And there's also this pawn behind. Okay, queen defends the knight while attacking the bishop. That is quite smart. Knight d5 looks pretty interesting because it actually might be possible. It very well might be possible. It attacks the queen while defending bishop, and the queen has to stay defending the knight. So bishop takes would be necessary, and then queen gets to d5, attacks the bishop. Wow, I think this works. I think it does. If bishop takes, it will take with the rook and defend the bishop. So if queen takes bishop, I'll take on c5. Okay, there is capture on e4 is coming, but these two pawns are also hanging at the moment. Rook comes down, so it attacks or puts pressure on the pawn and attacks the bishop. So what do? Then when I go to f3, I don't think there is a good way to defend the bishop. I could go there and maybe trade. Then the queen protects and rook could come back to defend. Now I'm down a pawn. And if bishop to b5. No, I think bishop to c4 is the way to go, or is it? Rook c2. Oh wow, I'm also spending so much time here. Rook c1 impossible, so okay, that's not a good thing to do. So is bishop d1 possible? Knight d3 comes then. Oh my gosh, this is so difficult of a move. But okay, I'll play bishop b5. I had to play something. I don't really enjoy this move because it blocks the b file. Okay, c6. That's such a simple move. Such a simple move. And what do I do now? I would like to attack something in between. Like the rook, for example. But okay, that was not the best call, so now I have to go back to c4 anyway. Rook to a4. Okay, that was not the best way to go about it. I really don't think it was. Now I will defend it like this with the rook. But my king side is pretty weak. And again, it does not do great. Pawn to b6. That's ambitious. But really accurate, I think. This might just win the game. Queen to d4 is the only possible thing, and then pawn to b5. I'll just resign. But I'm sorry for this, I got a bit interrupted. And that cost me the game, I feel. But now for this game, I should be fully focused. But if you are still following the series, I'm actually quite amazed that you can still keep it up after so many losses. Pawn to f4, King's Gambit. That's pretty interesting. I'll go for bishop to c5. And here, once I actually made a shot where once in a blitz game I got f takes e5. And then there is this checkmate basically in 4 moves. Okay, let's develop the knight to c6. Bishop to b5. So we get something like Spanish. Can I play knight d4? It feels like I can. It does feel that way. Also d6. Oh, d6 should have been played. Actually, knight c6 drops a piece. I just realized that d6 in that position is necessary, but thankfully opponent missed that as well. But yeah, I just remembered that actually knight c6 is already losing. At least I think so. When I looked at the line last time. I know that d6 is the way to play, but I just automatically played knight c6 there. Anyway, we got this position. So let's get back to that. My bishop is on the attack. I feel like I gotta take that there is nothing else. Okay, knight takes, makes sense, and now bishop to d7. Makes sense to me now as well. Now the knight is hanging. So I would expect some trades. Or knight b3, bishop b6. But here I actually maybe quite enjoy the position, or do I? Difficult to judge, as always. Here I might want to develop the knight. That queen check doesn't do anything as long as there is the pawn on f4. Here we might expect both sides the castle. Okay, queen d3 first. Not really sure why. True is that the pawn on e4 was under attack, but after castles, I don't think I would go for that because of the spin. So yeah, now I can castle for sure. Maybe there are some lines where I take, then there would be the bishop hanging as well. Maybe it did not work, maybe it did. I'm not so sure. But anyway, I should have calculated it more. Or at least consider it. So that was a bit of a mistake, I would say. I didn't even consider it. Okay, I'm gonna play rook e8 and pile up against that e4 pawn. Knight defense, I was expecting that, pretty much. Knight g4 is an option to maybe even win that bishop. Or not win, but just get the bishop there. But there was this option of knight takes c6, in which case I would grab with the pawn. And if bishop takes c5, I would grab the bishop on b5. So it should be fine. Should be fine to go for that line. Yeah, it feels to be. So knight to g4. That's the bishop. Bishop g1 may be possible, I'm not so sure. Going for the long castle. White actually has the possibility of castling both sides. And yeah, bishop g1, there it is. There it is. But now there is a direct pin against that. Not sure whether I can take advantage of it. I hope I can somehow, but I wouldn't be so sure. This check doesn't do much, just g3 as always. Maybe pawn to f5 does something. I don't really know. I don't really know. But it feels like it could, right? Pawn to f5. It weakens this diagonal and I don't like that. Maybe. But what else am I gonna play? I just feel like pawn to a6. We gotta do something about it here. You gotta tell me what are you going to do here. That's pretty great when it happens. But also pretty bad when it happens on the other side when you're winning and then you lose. It sometimes happens, these things. But like, yeah, it just depends what you create when you have a worse position, but it happens less and less as you get higher rated. Although here it still happens. It already happened a couple times in this series as well. Actually, most of the times I was the one who was better and then lost it. But also a few games I was worse and ended up on top. So here the long castle scam, as I was saying that it is possible, and it suddenly starts to feel quite dangerous. I gotta go back with the knight, because h3 would be another tempi. And I would go back to f6 anyway. I would like to get pawn to d5 in, but then pawn to e5, and yeah, g4 is coming, and it feels like my opponent is just faster with the attack. Maybe I gotta try something like bishop takes d4 because the knight is pretty strong there. Yeah, it feels like I'm gonna have to try it. Maybe I could wait a bit longer, but I wanna get the pawns rolling down the board as well. The b file is there to attack, for sure. But it depends how big of a thing it actually is. It's not so easy to get the rooks there, and also it's not so hard to defend against the b2 threat. Or against the threat on the b2, so yeah, that's quite that. Does bishop to b5 actually do anything? It might, provoking pawn to c4, which I actually might like happening. I'm going for it. Yeah, e5 is coming. That's basically inevitable. It just is. But I can force some weaknesses maybe. Bishop a4 and if pawn to b3, which probably is not even so great because of immediate queen a1. Still, it is defendable maybe somehow, but not sure if opponent wants to calculate that, so just rook e1 could be more natural. There is rook b8 though, e5 will come to block. I got something, but yeah, after e5 it just feels like white is faster, white is pushing. Rook e1, there it is. Queen d4 maybe could be an interesting option. I might actually quite like it, because without the queens, it would not have to be that bad. I would get a passed pawn. e5 is coming anyway. I'm not doing anything about that, so let's go for queen d4. Maybe get that endgame. Also, generally speaking, bishop pairs better with the rooks than the knight does. It is of course just slightly, and it very much depends on the position. But it is always nice thing to have, like just slight edge. I'll go back all the way to d7 because I wanna defend the d4 pawn with pawn to c5 as soon as I can. e5 will be played anyway at some point, I guess. Also, the attack on the king side is incoming. I would like to get pawn to a4, but I will not because a4 stops that. And b3 is actually defended quite nicely. So I'd rather start doing something about the king side. Maybe h5, but then the lines would open up. Not really necessary to do. Bishop c6. King gets quite nicely active on d3, I gotta say. I might wanna play rook b8 though, why not? It just keeps the knight on d2. It is forced to defend that pawn because once I win it, I get a nice counterplay and maybe in many positions even winning, it feels. Okay, what is this? It's probably the intention is to double up somewhere. I can actually strike with pawn to d5. Actually, that might be pretty nice thing that I can do that, because the e pawn is pinned, and I was originally looking at the f5 idea, but that just doesn't work, but this does. This does work. And yeah, e5, here it comes. But I can take on c4 now, or can I? I don't have to as well. Like, I can just keep it like it is. Now I'll play rook b4 first, and then take. And the b file is opening up. So I will get counterplay. Also, the a pawn will be weak. This d5 thing is a huge thing, actually. But I still have to watch out for this on the king side, where it is 4 against 3, which is definitely an advantage, and the place where white will be pushing. But this d5 was pretty nice, I'm gonna say. Now I can take that. Well, not really. Knight takes. So I'll just double up there. I'll just double up on the b file to attack the b3 pawn even more. Okay. Rook goes there to defend. But now I can just take on c4, can't I? If pawn takes, I don't mind. There is this weak pawn. So that's pretty great. I can just take that pawn and be happy. Maybe you should have gone for trades first. Yeah. It feels maybe I should have gone for that first. Because now it's not completely clear. How am I getting out of there? Maybe rook a8. But getting down to 1 minute is gonna be quite difficult to handle. We might get an endgame anyway. Just a piece endgame. But it's really problematic because this pawn falls. I'll go after these pawns though. But once this pawn falls, it's going to be pretty hard, but I can take advantage of this and at least win that one. There is no way to defend. Can go here, 40 seconds. Gotta be careful about the time. The bishop and the pawns control pretty nicely the king. So, okay, now this, I'll go back and attack that pawn. Okay, opponent doesn't even care. I can just push and then go back with the bishop, for example. Go back to e2. Now, f6, maybe not the best thing to do. Okay, it is fine. 28 seconds. Up a pawn in this endgame. I'll try to come around for the h4 pawn. "25 seconds, really have to watch out for that." Okay, I will take. Knight comes out. I'll just try to go back, sneak back somehow. Knight controls the king though. I cannot start pushing the h pawn. Now to 20 seconds, that's the biggest issue, it feels. Yeah, I can just go back. There can be no capture at all. g5 possible, maybe, a big thing. Yeah, g5 will be a big thing, it feels. Then yes, there would be this passed pawn. King would have to go away because of this bishop. I'll just go back. 18 seconds. But g5 is basically the thing I want to do. Knight cannot take because then I will just push the pawn and promote. But king e3 possible. And then if king g7, then knight could take, so probably pawn to g4 to be played. And then I would have both of these two pawns pretty nicely defended. If pawn takes, how do I want to take? I want to take it with the king. King sneaks in. In such a case, I want to go back here. Definitely, but the time is really hard on me. Okay, I'll just push. It feels like I might be slower somehow. We'll both get queens. I can remove that. Okay, I wanted to go back, definitely. Oh, wow. Okay, I'll try to go around, but it's really difficult to dodge all those checks. Maybe that way I can dodge. Oh, wow. Actually, can I checkmate now? Don't tell me. I knew that I need to get the bishop out of the way. I knew it. I knew it. Without the bishop, it would be much simpler. But yeah, this totally unexpected stalemate happened. At least I didn't lose, which it pretty much seemed to. But then at that point, I just had to remove the checkmate. And yeah, I knew that I simply don't like the fact that I actually have the bishop. As I said, it would be better without it, and without it, I would be actually confident to make it. And I was confident to make it anyway, but yeah, I just slid the bishop there, and then just didn't pay attention, so there it is, stalemate. But with the clock, it was hard. It was definitely winning. The endgame was winning. But draw, I guess I gotta take it. Even though definitely wanted to win it. Stalemate like this is a thing you do not want to create, but yeah, it simply happened there. I went through it with the pre-moves. That was all I could do. Maybe 2 seconds, maybe you don't have to pre-move everything, but then it would be pretty tough anyway. Okay, for the last game I get the white pieces again. Maybe try pawn to c4. Pawn to f5, okay. I could play the Dutch, but I'll just stick with knight c3. Now I can go pawn to g3. Okay, and then we see the setup, so I'll just bring the bishop to g2. And then we'll see, I guess bishop g7 would be logical. Yeah, there it comes. So I'll just play knight f3, okay. d6, e5 will come. So I should probably play that pawn to d4 move, and this is now just a Dutch and nothing else. I'll castle as well, and yeah, queen e8, typical plan. I would like to get pawn to e4 in as well. I feel like I would, or would I? This thing is coming. Can I play bishop f4? Or pawn to d5? That seems better. Pawn to a5. Okay, that was played pretty fast actually. That is quite interesting. Not so sure what it does, obviously claiming space on the queen side. But yeah, it just felt like there are better options to do. Knight a6, okay, that is probably the destination of that knight. Do I want to go in with pawn to e4? So knight d4 is the thing I'm thinking of to get the knight to e6, but there's just the bishop to trade. So it doesn't feel to be too appealing. Okay, let's say I go for it, because I have to go now if I want to. There's this bishop to g4 then, which is probably an issue. Okay, knight c5 first, but there's this thing coming. I have the knight protected sufficiently now, so it could be fine. Okay, I guess I'll just go back now, all the way to e1. Yes. And now bishop to g4. Okay, queen goes to f7 instead first to pile up there. So bishop to g4 is actually now a big threat, I would call it that way. So h3 to defend against that. Maybe I can just defend the f2, and once bishop to g4, just jump out of the way with the knight. Not sure where though. Maybe knight to g4. Yeah, that would be pretty nice. So like queen c2. Maybe queen e2 even better. No, that's not. That's not. Because of bishop to g4. Okay, bishop f5 to attack the queen. Right. That makes sense. Now, queen d2, do I want to play that? Knight d4. Knight g5 maybe, but no, that doesn't really work. Okay, so that means I should play queen d2, but that just doesn't look good. There's knight e4. There are a lot of things. I don't like queen d2, obviously blocking the bishop. So now I gotta go up to e3 or f4. Yeah, to e3 I would say. Although the f4 square doesn't look bad either. It maybe looks even better, so let's go there. Let's see what will be played afterwards. Knight goes back to c5. That's interesting. The knight was under attack, so it makes sense. But now I can start to do things with the knight, for example, just jumping to g5. There is bishop h6 then. Cannot develop this bishop because then the b3 pawn would fall, even though it's maybe not so bad afterwards. But let's say I jump there. Queen just goes back, and there is nothing to watch out for actually. So maybe it's not that great. But knight d4 could be better. Could be better way to go. Also an interesting way to go. To attack the bishop. Bishop goes back though, and then it's not so clean. Knight can come to d3. Okay, the fact that knight can come to d3 is a huge thing now. This is a pretty complicated position. I feel like I might just go back to d2 and to repeat position. Maybe try to repeat the position. Yeah, maybe even I'll go for it. Let's see if opponent wants a draw or not. Clearly doesn't. So that means I can do something with the knight. For example, go to h4. But it just feels quite hard to defend against these threats. And this bishop is so strong as well. Bishop comes to d3. Okay. I might play pawn to f4. Yeah, I might go for it. There's this check, but I'll just slide the king to h1. But it is actually a big thing. Because the knight e4... Okay, no, knight e4 is impossible. Don't know what was I thinking. There's the bishop and the rook, so it's fine. But if knight e4, or also like knight d3 possible, just knight coming to f2 would be the end of the game. That case. But it should not be an option. This is a pretty complicated position, and I would say that the biggest issue here is this, actually. That this feels like the biggest issue that I currently have. I'm not so sure how am I going to solve that, but I'll try my best to do so. Maybe queen f2, then this would be a bit risky. But bishop e3 could be possible. Yeah, maybe queen f2. But also pawn to g5, and yes, there's that queen in the way. But there could be the rook as well. But okay, here comes the check. I think that I'll just go back here and attack the bishop. This pawn is actually defended. And what's important, if knight to e4 happens, I will just take there with the rook. And that is really crucial to see. That if bishop takes, I'm gonna take a piece on d4. So that would be pretty fine. Now there actually might even be no way to save the bishop, or like save the trade of these pieces. So I will trade on the next move for sure. Knight e4 comes, but now I'll just take, as I was saying, and I cannot capture with the queen. Then bishop takes, queen takes, bishop takes, and I'm down the exchange. But I can take with the knight, and we get at this position where I just should be up material, in theory. Have to consolidate, also down on the clock. Pawn to e5. Trying to open up this, definitely. Not going to happen, that would be checkmate. I can come in with the knight to e6 maybe, or just take en passant. It's not forced to do so. Of course not. But in this line, it makes sense. Although the knight on e6 would be really great piece as well. Yeah, this comes, that was expected. I'll just place the knight on b5. Now, this pawn can fall. It can. But here, I can play queen to d5. Yep, I think I can do that. And get a queen trade. This suddenly feels better. This pawn is under attack, but I don't want to take it just yet. I would say that it is under pressure. I need to develop my pieces first, get the bishop on this beautiful diagonal. Okay, my opponent defends, which is interesting, because I was not planning on capturing there so soon. Okay, rook attacks this pawn. That is true. And I might want to defend it. But the rook on f5 feels a bit misplaced. You want to double up your rooks on the e file when you're black. Okay, that move. I'll just get my rook to e file first if black doesn't want to. Pawn to b5, yeah, I thought that this might happen. Going for a trade like that. And okay, let's play it. Rook takes there. I'll play bishop to c3. I can solidify the knight there with pawn to a4. So there are no issues with that. Yes, I will play it. Maintaining this pressure, getting one down to 1 minute though. Rook e6 is a nice plan. This should be winning material. That pawn is under pressure as well. I'll just capture there with the rook. Okay, we are getting the trade. I could go back here, but I'll go back to b5. It feels more stable. I gotta bring the king into the game as well. Though the king is coming, and it is something to be worried about a bit. So I'm gonna take there now. And yeah, now go back. And then maneuver the knight around. Where do I go? Here and then to e5. These pieces are pretty nicely placed there. 40 seconds. Why does this always has to be so stressful? I'll go back here. This nicely attacks that thing. I'll now slowly try to break through. The king doesn't have a good way to get back. This move actually don't know what that does. Probably better waiting move was with the rook. Now I'll go for pawn to g4. Anyway. It's a hard endgame. But this position should be winning for me. It should. Let's see if we get this straight or not. Can I play it? Yes, I can play f5 now. This endgame is winning. I'm pretty confident in that. And then I can play king f4. True is that this winning? Well, this endgame. But yeah, I think it is still winning. It should be. Oh, maybe it's not. Oh wow, don't tell me that it is not. Oh wow. Okay, I'll claim another draw, but like... Oh man. Really? And was the endgame actually draw all the way? In this position? Yeah, it was. So the whole f5 idea was wrong. Okay, it was still fine if I played g5 or captured the pawn on h5. But again, so difficult to get it with the clock. Pretty much like in the last game, winning in the end game, but with the clock situation, actually happy with the draw in the end. And with this habit, it's difficult to get up. I'm not really sure what to do with that, but I guess I felt better than yesterday, definitely. But still, I felt like something is off. Not sure what, but just was not fully focused on the game for whatever reason. We'll see if that improves. Maybe tomorrow, because I'll actually play one classical game. So that might help me focus and get into chess. I hope so. Get into it. So yeah, we'll see. I'll end it here. Actually, another rating loss. But yeah, see you tomorrow. Hopefully it will finally get better. It's